What's going on YouTube, and welcome back to another less than 5-minute gear review. And in this video we're going to be going over the First Spear Ranger med pouch. Now this med pouch is going to cost you about 156 bucks. It is probably one of the more expensive individual med kits that I've seen on the market, but it is pretty interesting, and the scenario that I'm going to talk about at the end that I was talking about with the guy was actually pretty interesting to hear how it played out. So that'll be an example of how this pouch can actually be pretty cool. So with that said, there are two components to this pouch. There is the carrier, and then there is the med pouch itself. When it comes down to it, both of these systems have MOLLE on it, so if you want to fix this to a piece of equipment, you can, or you can utilize the carrier and then be able to just pull this med kit out and then employ it that way. With that said, I would advise using the carrier, because with the story that I'll talk about at the end, it does kind of play into that. So with that said, when it comes to the carrier and how this is configured, you have a little bit of elastic on the sides, so that way if you fill this med pouch up as full as possible, you still have the ability to utilize this carrier, and it will stretch with the pouch, so that way it will still fit inside of this carrier. With that said, they call this carrier the thong. It's a pretty interesting name for a med pouch carrier, but hey, right on. I think it looks a little bit more like a diaper, but hey, it's okay. So this carrier is called the thong, or the med thong. And then you have two MOLLE loops on this system, so that way when this is full as well, you can adjust this hook portion to hook into one of these loops depending on the size and like thickness of the pouch when you get it all full. There is a little bit of elastic on this tab too as well, so it does allow for some stretch and some give when this is completely full, if you fill it completely fill it up. So with that said, this tab and hook can be a little bit hard to put back into those MOLLE loops. Just keep that in consideration. It's actually kind of nice though, because you know that that's nice and secure. You have to deliberately pull it down to be able to pull that entire med kit out, or pull that tab and flap out of the way to pull the med kit out. So backside, like I said, you have MOLLE. It is a laser cut stuff, which is really nice. I really do like that. And then there's a little bit of plastic in there, so that way it gives this whole entire carrier some rigidity, so that way when you MOLLE this onto whatever system that you are putting it on, it's not this med pouch isn't pulling everything off. Because I know with med pouches, I've seen it more with med pouches than anything else, when you fill these up, sometimes you get the ends want to pull off of whatever system that you're running this off of, whether it's a plate carrier, a back panel, the cummerbund. It's one thing that I have noticed. So with that said, when it comes to the pouch itself, it's pretty simple and straightforward. It is very similar to the Eagle Industry pouch that I've done a gear review on in the past, but a little bit different when it comes down to it. On the exterior, you do have the MOLLE, which is nice if you want to throw tourniquets on this thing. It does make this a little bit tight when you put the tourniquets on there. I would advise don't use the tourniquet pouches. If you're going to put the tourniquets on here, just hair tie them. It does make it a little bit easier to employ the tourniquets and get those to the guy, and as well as you can throw trauma shears in here as well. So the front is nice to have that MOLLE, because you have the ability to fix those tools and pieces of equipment to it. And then the back side, like I said, you have your MOLLE with that laser cut in there, so that way you can MOLLE this straight into whatever system if you want to. But I would advise use the carrier. It's what it's meant for. So it just makes employing the system a lot easier. And then on top of that, you have this pull handle or throw handle, so that is nice to have as well. When it comes to the interior of this pouch, like I said, it is very similar to the Eagle Industry. You have your elastic loops on top for larger items, gauze, chest seals and all of that, and then any type of admin cards that you may want. On the bottom, you have your pocket to be able to throw some more supplies in there, and then you have elastic loops throughout the entire system to be able to address the whole march sequence for dealing with a casualty and somebody that's been injured. With that said, you also do have a little bit of elastic material throughout this entire system, which I think is an added nice feature compared to the Eagle Industry ones. This will stretch and give when you really fill this thing up and want to get it full and pack as much supplies in here as possible. So with that said, when it comes to the actual application and use of this system, I do know a couple of medics, and the story that they've told me was dudes will take two of these and put these on their back panel, and then they have a horizontal pouch that sits below it, similar to the Tier Tactical 5x9, and they'll put a lot of specific med supplies in that 5x9, and then they have two of these just above it, and they use these in place of like the M9 med bag. And the scenario that played out, a dude was in a training scenario. Dude got injured. One of the other guys on the team, they couldn't maneuver based off this scenario. So one of the guys that was next to the medic grabbed this med pouch, threw it to the guy that was injured in that training scenario for a higher level of care beyond what his individual med kit could do, and he was able to get aid to that other guy in that training scenario. So pretty cool thing when it comes down to it, just because you can't really throw an entire M9 bag at somebody, but you can throw something small and simple like this to get that person the equipment that they need for a more serious injury. So take that into consideration. It is a capability that this pouch has when it comes down to it, and what I've seen guys utilize this for. I know after that scenario, all of the medics on that team and some of the medics in that company were setting their entire back panels up like this as well. So pretty interesting and cool system, and to see how that all played out and whatnot. But with that said, if you have any questions, please feel free to leave a comment. We'll answer any questions that you have. Like, share, and subscribe, and we'll see you next time.